This cheese board is jam-packed with so many different flavors and textures, and as long as you know the key components, it's super simple to put together. Let's go cut the cheese. Obviously for a cheese board, you gotta have a nice assortment of cheeses. So I like to use some hard, some soft cheeses, some goats, some sheep's milk cheeses, some cow cheeses, a nice array of cheeses. So I've narrowed it down to my top 4 for this board: La Tour, Parmigiano Reggiano, Stilton Blue, and French Triple Cream. And I think it'll look really pretty. We have some high, some low, different colors. So we're just putting them all over the board, one kind of on each corner of the board. Okay, so in assembling a cheese board, I always like to work according to size. So I put my cheeses on first, and then the next biggest thing is the fruit. So I have a nice little assortment of fruit here. I have some green grapes, some purple grapes, and you want a little bit of everything on all parts of the board. So we have some cute little baby apples here. Just gotta put them right on our board. And you're basically just making little piles of things. So we have some pears over here. Kind of pile them up in the corner there. All right, so let's continue with some salty components here. We have some Marcona almonds, which are one of my favorite kind of almonds. And we're just gonna make these little piles. And some cashews, roasted and salted, really good. And all these things go so beautifully with cheeses. Next, we have some different olives here. 3 different colors. Again, it's all about the colors. So let's do some green olives in this section. We have some Kalamata olives here. These are kind of like little baby ones. These black kind of pruny olives. You can already see this is starting to come together, starting to look beautiful. Little pops of color all throughout the board. Okay, so next we're gonna add in some more sweet components here. We have some cranberries, which are also just really good to pick at, and add some nice color. All right, so here are some little peppers, sweet little peppers. Also add gorgeous color. Now we have some mustard, some full grain mustard. I'm just gonna put this right here in this dish, just so people can dip into it. And then we have a sweet pepper jam, and we have a fig jam. Perfect. We have our quince jam. So we're just gonna take a little slice of this, because this is really good. And then, of course, you need your crackers to go with the cheese board. So I've made sure to leave enough space for these guys. Here we have some really, really gorgeous crackers studded with all nuts and seeds and cranberries. These are gorgeous. So just kind of like fan them out a little bit and tuck them into your board. These little Parmesan crisps are always really good. Here we have some little croutons. I'm gonna fill in this area here. Stand up, Mr. Cheese. Let's just tuck a few dates into here. All right, so we have our sweet, our salty, our briny, crunchy, smooth. You have it all going on here. The only last component is adding some beautiful garnish, fresh rosemary. I'm just gonna tuck these in. All right, and there you have it. A really beautiful, seasonal, and festive cheese board. Hope you enjoy.
It's fall, the days are getting shorter, the temperature is dropping, your mood needs to be uplifted by a warm, comforting dish, and that's exactly what this is. Fall farro with butternut squash and pancetta. It's quick, let's make it right now. We have some farro. Comes from the wheat plant. That's what they make bread out of. Just gonna cook it just like we would pasta, right into some boiling water. Next, some olio d'oliva, a little bit of pancetta. Pancetta is going to be the fat for this dish. It's also going to add the delicious depth of flavor that bacon gives you. Here we have a shallot. All right, this is called Frenching the onion. And when it gets to like there, I like to flatten it back down, so I just feel like I, less of a chance of cutting myself. Okay. So we put a little bit of oil in the pan, and that just helps sort of the pancetta make full contact with the bottom of the pan. It just cooks better. Do you need to put olive oil in the pan? No, you don't, because there's so much fat in the pancetta, it'll eventually render out. But I like to help it out. And Frankie, I can't find pancetta. Fine, use some bacon, cut it up. It's the same thing. Pancetta comes from the pancia, which is the belly, and so does bacon. Okay, here we have slotted spoon. Pull the pancetta out. All right. All right, we got some shallots cooking in the rendered pancetta / bacon fat. And that's just going to give these way more flavor than if you just use olive oil, because animal fat is better, let's be honest. I think we could take a couple sage leaves and hit those in here right now too. Oh man, it smells like fall and the deep forest right away. If you need a little help, go for it. Fat is important here. How about a little black pepper? Butternut squash. Here we go. The bottle cap method, very important. All right, so here's the deal. This is nice. We're gonna get like some caramelization on the squash, but it's not really gonna cook through. So have some liquid ready. Here I've got some chicken stock. It could very well be vegetable stock. It could be water. It could be wine. Here we go. And don't worry about it getting too soupy. It's gonna reduce. Keep it going. Full blast heat. Full blast heat. You want to cook the hell out of these. They're hard. They need to be penetrated with hot, steamy liquid. We still have some liquid. We're going to come in with some tomato paste. It's going to give us some sweetness. It's going to give us some acidity. It's going to give us some color. I'm a big fan of tomato paste in the tube because, you know, you don't have to use the whole thing. You keep it in the fridge. When you do the can, it's like not fun to keep that. So the tube wins. All right. And again, if it looks a little dry, which like it kind of does right now, you know, don't be afraid to add a little more liquid. This one we were able to cook in the amount of time it took to cook the squash. Pancetta comes back in. Let's taste it. Let's get a little hot. Unexpected things happening. Sage and tomato paste work really well together. The butternut squash is nice. It's got some structure to it still, which is lovely. And then the farro is kind of like just like an intermediary middleman that's absorbing all the flavors, giving you, you know, the fullness that you desire. Here comes pecorino. Pecorino is a sheep's milk cheese. It's very salty. I like to use it in place of using salt. You'll notice we didn't put salt anywhere. And that's because pecorino is salty, but it's also because pancetta is salty. Okay. So, okay. We got the butternut squash, and that is the star of the dish. It's got the structural integrity of a well-made high-rise, and I think this is a good fall dish here. What if we put some leaf of parsley on there? It's a good wintertime herb, absolutely. Gives you like a crispness, and just for a little bit of acidity, I think that lemon zest in general is a great idea. And that's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, you want to hit it with a little more oil, just like raw oil, you know, uncooked oil. It's fruity, it's lubricating, it's antioxidizing. I think that's a good move. And that's it. Butternut squash and farro.
can't say no to gnocchi, especially when it's made with pumpkin spice. It's like your inner basic bitch activates and says, OMFG, everything in my life has led up to this moment. Take the plunge. If you've ever had gnocchi or made it yourself before, then you know that there are different kinds. So you can have ones with potato or ricotta, and that's the one we're doing today. But I'm also gonna add some pumpkin puree, because pumpkin spice is nothing without the pumpkin. In this bowl, add your ricotta, then the pumpkin puree. You can make the puree on your own, or you could buy it in a can, which is what I did. Just make sure that it's 100% pumpkin, not pumpkin pie mix. That's for lazy people, like me. Let's add some egg yolks. You just need the egg yolks, so separate the whites in another bowl and add it to the mix. Give this all a good mix. This smells so good already. Ooh, I love that sound. It sounds like my Friday nights when I'm making pasta. In goes the pumpkin spice and a little bit of salt. Add the flour just a little bit at a time. So you add some, then you mix, and a bit more. You keep adding flour until the dough becomes a little more firm. You don't want it to be tough though, because you don't want a dense gnocchi. So this is the consistency you're looking for. Just gonna flour my surface a little bit so it doesn't stick. Dump this baby right on out. You don't want to knead it too much, but just a little bit to make sure it all comes together. Just go ahead and roll it all over to pick up all that flour. And now I am ready to divide and conquer. Got a bench scraper here. You could also use a knife. You're gonna work with one chunk at a time. Roll it into a little cigar and then cut off little chunks. More little nuggets. Take a gnocchi paddle like this, or a fork, you can use the back of the fork. Take your nugget and press it using your thumb and then move it downwards, like this. It's not perfect, but it gets easier as you do each one. To cook them, I have a pot of boiling water here to slowly drop in your gnocchi. You know they're done cooking when they all float to the top. Working very quickly in another pan, add some butter, melt that down, just so it doesn't get too brown. Add a little bit of olive oil. Drain off your gnocchi and drop it in the butter. Don't stir them around too much. You want them to get nice and crispy on one side, then you can flip them over and crisp up the other side. Look at that color. Once they're nice and crispy, just pull them out of the pan and set it aside. Do you hear that sound? They're like pillows of heaven. And take some gorgeous sage leaves and fry them up in that butter. When the sage is just crispy, add the gnocchi back in. You know what this needs? A little Parmesan. Oh yeah! Look at that cheese dance. Just add a little more Parmesan on top. Oh yes. And there you have it, crispy pumpkin spice gnocchi. I bet y'all thought this was gonna be a sweet one. Oh. Crispy, pillowy. Let me try this crispy sage. I hope you guys give this a try. I'll see you next time. Remember to just eat life. Oh my god. You picking up that crunch? The people need to hear the crunch.
today's recipe is awesome. It is a roasted garlic and butternut squash soup that I am serving in this vessel. How cool is that? This is a acorn squash, in case you're wondering. And I like to top the soup with a little chorizo and homemade croutons. This is phenomenal. You're gonna have a lot of fun. Let's get started. So over here, I have already chopped up some butternut squash. So I wanna get that covered in a little bit of olive oil and some salt and pepper. Cool, I'm gonna give that a quick mix just with my hands. And then I'm gonna dump it onto one of my lined baking sheets. And that's just greased and lined with a little bit of parchment paper. Then I've got this entire head of garlic, which I'm gonna place on there as well. My oven is preheating to 400. So before that goes in there, I'm going to prepare these. So I want to slice off the tops, and then we're gonna cut a little bit off the bottom just so it stands upright. Okay, so you wanna take a spoon, and now we're gonna scoop out the innards and the seeds. And then in order to make it a bigger bowl, I'm gonna scoop out a bunch of this flesh as well. We're gonna place that on our roasting tray along with the butternut squash, and it will go in our soup. Get those on my baking sheet. I wanna douse the insides with a little bit of olive oil and then a little more salt and pepper. Okay, so these are all ready to go in the oven. They are going to bake until they're fork tender, and then we'll get started on the soup. All right, so while our squash is in the oven, it is now time to turn this amazing bread, oh, I got pumpernickel, into croutons. So first thing I wanna do is I'm gonna make some nice thin slices. I wanna get those into thin slices, and then I'm gonna get little cubes here. I want them fairly small because I like putting a bunch and then you get lots of little bites instead of kind of big ones that you have to gnaw on. And to flavor them slightly, I'm going in with a little bit of garlic salt and some smoked paprika. And then of course some olive oil. So these are gonna bake in the oven until they're nice and crispy. We'll do that once our squash is done. Okay, our squash is all roasted. The garlic looks amazing. I let it cool for about 15 minutes because I wanna be able to handle it. On that note, let's make a soup. So in my pot over here, I wanna go in with a little bit of olive oil. Then I wanna go in with my roasted garlic. Now I wanna cut this in half. And then I'm gonna squeeze in the cloves. How cool is that? Now this other half you can save for lots of other things. I like it on toast with a little bit of pesto for kind of a different breakfast, or you can put it on pizza. There's lots of other uses. Keep it in a Tupperware. It's good in the fridge for a few days. Next thing to go in is about a tablespoon of some fresh chopped ginger. And then I want to dump in all my squash. So I'm going to get this on a medium heat, and I want this to saute for about 5 minutes. Really just to warm everything through again and get the ginger kind of climatized. Next I'm going in with my chicken stock. Now this is 4 cups. If you find that the mixture is getting a little bit dry while you cook it through, or once you blend it, you find it's a little too thick, just add some water. I find any more chicken stock than that and it gets a little bit too salty and kind of like overpowering. This has to cook now for about 50 minutes. I'm gonna bring it to a boil and then simmer it off. Down here, I finished my croutons. You can see they're nice and crispy. Perfect. Oh, it tastes amazing. And then I fried up a little bit of thinly sliced dried chorizo. I think you can find this in most supermarkets. I wish they were healthier for you because I just want to eat them like potato chips. Just like dipped in sour cream. Could you imagine? I'd do it too. Don't hold me against it. That's not that saying. Don't hold it against me. Once our soup is done, I'm gonna go in there with an immersion blender. I wanna get it nice and smooth, salt and pepper, pour it into my bowls, top it with my toppings, dollop of sour cream, how about? Yes. And then I get to eat it. This is my favorite day, is the day that I get to eat, which is every day. This is capital I impressive, if you ask me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Here we go. Down the hall. Oh, yes. Yep, Great job, me.
Hey guys, right here I have a totally vegetarian stuffing that's super duper delicious. It's made from items that I just happen to have in my cabinet because I think stuffing should stretch food and it shouldn't really cost you any money at all. Let me show you how to make it. Let's start with some Brussels sprout. Get a pan, get some heat, a little olive oil. Sprouts go in. this point, hit it with salt, hit it with pepper, and now flip them all over so that they are face down. On top of these, I like to throw the eggplant. In this pan, mushrooms, quartered, completely dry. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Let's talk about stuffing for a second. A lot of the recipes I've been reading require you to go out and buy lots of ingredients. Stuffing, listen to the name. It's filler. You should use stuff you already have. So that's what we're doing here today. We have nuts. We have some baby carrots that I bought a couple days ago to nosh on, and I'm putting those in. I've got some dried cranberries that I bought for a salad that I never made. I've got pear because I'm out of apples. I've got the saddest allium of all of them, the leek. Delicious, but, you know, underachieving in some ways. You can pretty much use anything you want. Stale bread, yes! Okay, these are going. These are going. Oh, get them both happening. Well, in the meantime, we can cut up our bread. This is sourdough. It could be Wonder Bread. I don't care. Color is good. We like color. You can see the mushrooms starting to release liquid. These are looking pretty good. Let's cool the pan down and let's add some flavor, yeah? Add them to here. Now, back here. Olive oil. Leeks. Cashews. These are wonderful when they cook. They turn black, but they get soft on the inside. I think they're really fantastic. I use them in stir fries as well. And some carrots. Be generous with your salt here. Mix these around as well. Here's some dried cranberries. These could be raisins, these could be dates, they could be figs. Okay, nice blackening. Smells like the Spanish countryside because they blister their leeks. Now let's just stop this cooking and deglaze this pan. Guess what? It's time for the marriage. Up until this point, we're vegan, and it's still super delicious. Let's add some pears. Here's the deal. The stuffing is coming into a casserole pan. Stuffing is meant to stuff the human, you. Stuffing goes in oven. Stuffing does not go in bird. Okay, the bread goes on. Hit it with a little olive oil like this. I like to cook it starting this way so it gets even more toasted. Okay, so let's go in the oven. Here's the deal. I like to just cook it a little at the beginning to get that bread to just get even crunchier, even toastier. And now what we're gonna do is add our binder, eggs and cream. Now, if you wanna keep this vegetarian, vegan, whatever, at this point, my recommendation would be chickpeas with the liquid, pulsed, and some coconut milk. That can be your substitute. So just mix that up. Pour this over top. And now we mix it completely to combine, okay? Try and get all of this newly added wetness sort of just around and about. All right, oven time. All right. Vegetarian stuffing, potentially vegan, it's up to you. Lovely, nice and moist. Imagine this with some turkey, perhaps a little bit of gravy. The two things to remember are these. One, stuffing is to stuff a human, not a bird. You don't want to poison your family. That would be really, really bad. The second thing is try and make stuffing from the stuff that you have in your pantry. Use that stock, use the dried nuts, use the dried fruit, use the stale bread, and put it together. You have the framework. This is a choose-your-own-adventure stuffing, which is delicious if you choose the adventure that I chose, but also probably delicious if you choose your own adventure that you can choose. Mmm! Happy Thanksgiving!
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. You might be saying to yourself, Julie, why the hell would you think to change up hummus? It is already a perfect thing. And to that I would say, yes, correct, excellent statement. However, Would you have told Da Vinci to stop painting after the Mona Lisa because it was already perfect? No. Answer to that question. Point made. All right, so to start us off, I want to go into my food processor with some white beans. They're kind of the base that makes this hummusy. Then I've got some roasted butternut squash. This is just a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper. Goes into the oven for about 20 minutes at 400. Get a little bit of that in there. Next to go in is some coconut oil. Then I've got a little bit of maple syrup for sweetness. Here is some roasted garlic. That all goes in. And then I want to add a pinch of cumin and cinnamon and a little bit of salt and pepper. And that's how simple it is. I'm now just gonna blend it. This is the best recipe ever. All right. So this is the kind of thing I like to serve with crackers or like toasted pita chips or carrots, like really cute little ones. If they're like big fat ones, don't use them. They're just not gonna like be as cute, if you know what I mean. And now is for me. This is just me time. Ooh. All right. And that's it. Super simple. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you next time.
In order to make what I think is the best gravy, you're going to need some good pan drippings. So after you've roasted your turkey, you'll most likely have this in your pan. All you have to do is let it cool down and then pour everything into another container. Then allow it to sit just for a couple of minutes until the fat rises to the top. Now just skim off all the fat and pour it into another bowl. Then take the rest of the juice and strain it before adding it to a batch of chicken broth. Now, a common question I hear about gravy is, well, how much do I make? I have a simple rule of thumb. Plan for a half a cup per person. So you got your broth, homemade or store-bought, just measure it out depending on how many guests you're gonna have. And then you can move on to the roux, which consists of fat and flour in equal amounts. So per cup of broth, I like to add 1.5 tablespoons of fat and 1.5 tablespoons of flour. And just to make your life easier, use the pan that was roasting the turkey so that you don't have to wash anything else. So with the roasting pan on the burner, combine the fat that you got from the pan drippings and equal parts flour. Make sure to mix them really well. Now you can start adding a little bit of the broth at a time while whisking. You don't want to form clumps, so do this very slowly. There you go, that's looking awesome. Now, you may be thinking this is on the thin side, and some people like this consistency, but if you're like me and you enjoy the thicker things in life, make some beurre mani. It's equal parts butter and flour. You just have to mix the two together until it's fully combined, roll them into balls, and then you can store them in the freezer whenever you need them. Then whenever you're making a gravy or a sauce that needs thickening, all you have to do is pop it in, mix it around, you're good to go. You can't just pour flour or butter into this because then you'll get lots of clumps. All right, that is the consistency I'm looking for. That thickness dough. All right, now you can add salt and pepper if you need to. I'm gonna taste it. Perfect, but if you need to, sprinkle some in. And there you have it, the best gravy in the world. I hope you guys will give these tips a try. I'll see you next time. Remember to just eat life. That's not weird, baby.
a bough on a tree, a bowing to me. There's a cradle that I call mine, a carpet of green, you know what I mean. And while I stretch and yawn upon a lawn the heavens kiss, why, even in my sleep I seem to weep all what I've missed. There's a blanket of stars that shine to comfort a guest, a sheltering nest. There's a cradle in Caroline, calling me back to rest.
What's up, guys? Jordan Andino here. Are you sick and tired of the plain old potato? Well, guess what? I'm here to save the day. Add some color and flavor to your side dish game with all these amazing root vegetables. Never will you have to be confined to the potato. So, what you see here are all the different root vegetables, seasoned and cooked already. You have your potatoes, your parsnips, your pumpkin, your squash, your taro root. All of it has oil, salt, pepper, roasted garlic. Let's heat up our butter and our cream to mash. So, blast the heat. You're gonna put about half a pound of butter. Honestly, the more butter you put, the better. So we're gonna put about a quart of heavy cream. This is a perfect way to kind of reheat and mash, and it's like a quick way to kind of separate the steps and combine it. So this is like a really easy restaurant hack. Always season just a little bit because you're gonna be seasoning everything else too. Always good to have salt and pepper. Okay, cool. Pepper's great. Okay, so just stir it a little bit. Okay. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour all of the cream and butter into my 5 different bowls, and then I'm gonna mash away very rigorously and very fun. Keep in mind, they all have the same ingredients. They all have the same cream and butter. So really, we're just gonna test out the different textures and flavors that naturally come from these different root vegetables. Also notice I didn't add too much of the butter and cream. I kind of just added, I would say about a cup, roughly. You can eyeball it. If you have like a food processor at home, you could do it in there as well. You could even use a hand blender. Okay, next one. I would say the pumpkin and the butternut squash are gonna taste the same. Taro root will have its own unique flavor, parsnip as well. And your purple potato, even though it's purple, will taste like mashed potatoes. Maybe a little sweeter. Next one, taro root, let's go. So with taro root, it's near and dear to my heart because this is one of the first things I remember eating when it comes to like a root vegetable. I had it as fries, I had it as mash, I had it as just roasted pieces. Next one, purple potatoes, yay! Although the whole purple potato, you know, is really just a potato, hate to break it to you, it really does go well for like plating. So if you want to be fancy and make something look really nice and pretty, purple potato is the way to go. Finally, parsnips. Parsnips are good because they really are a unique astringent flavor. So if you mash parsnips with, say, cauliflower, with a potato, it really blends well with other different types of, root vegetables or just vegetables in general. Once you're done, stretch a little bit because that was a workout. Now our parsnips are mashed. Okay, time to taste. This is where you can adjust the flavors and the creaminess and all of that. And yes, I'm gonna double dip. I don't care. Sue me. Love that flavor. Needs the salt for sure. Definitely some pepper. Creaminess is good. Maybe a little bit more. Just a wee bit. Okay. Let's mix that together. And I think this is ready. That's it. Mic drop. Amazing. Okay. Next one. Pumpkin. Creaminess. Perfect. Needs salt. Crack of pepper. Done. Ready to go. So now, butternut squash. Let's taste it and adjust. Wow. Maybe a tad bit salt and a little pepper, but that, okay. That butternut, honestly, it lends well to its name. It tastes buttery, it's amazing, and it definitely is the most unique flavor of the three so far. Try it again. Oh yeah. Okay, taro from my childhood. Let's taste. With taro root, you'll find it's naturally creamy. Very different. Little salt, crack of pepper. All right, this is ready to rock. Lastly, let's see where we're at with this on our initial taste. Potatoey, but it has elements of like a yam. So, make sure you gotta counteract that, okay? Don't want it to be too sweet. A little bit more salt and pepper, and we're gonna go creamy too. Just a little bit. Because I feel like potatoes really do soak up that moisture more so than others. Okay, let's have another bite. Amazing. So what did we learn? We learned that there are 5 different ways to make mashed potatoes and many more. And remember, I use the word potato loosely. Any and all root veggies work. So next time you're at a supermarket, you're about to grab that potato, stop. Don't be scared. It's okay. You're allowed to use other things. Hopefully you think of me. Hey, grab the butternut squash. That pumpkin looks really good. All these things work. You can do it. Jordan said so. Enjoy.
Today I'm going to show you how to make a chocolate and pumpkin tart. It's like Halloween and Thanksgiving, had a baby, and I made this. It's the cutest babe I've ever seen. To start off my pumpkin tart, I'm going to make the shell, which is made out of these chocolate wafer cookies, and they're really crispy and crunchy, and so when I pour them in the pan, they'll stay nice and crispy. They won't get soggy. Chocolate wafers into a food processor. These kind of remind me of Oreo cookies, just without the cream inside. Blend them up until they form a nice sand-like consistency. They actually kind of look like coffee grounds. That's what it should look like. And if you don't have a food processor, you put them in a large resealable bag and crush them with a rolling pin. Melted butter, blend it up. Just until it comes together. It should look like wet sand. Really like doing that. Perfect. All right, I have a tart shell pan with a removable bottom. It's fluted because it's fancy. This makes it a lot easier to get the tart out when you're done, because then you just lift up the bottom. It smells so good. I would just eat this. Butter and cookies. All right, now you want to make sure that it's even and flat and up all of the sides. So this kind of takes a little bit, because you got to be gentle and tender, and you just got to push it into the pan. Just make sure the bottom is nice and flat and even, and that looks pretty good. All right, I'm gonna pop this in a oven preheated to 325 for about 5 minutes. My crust is out of the oven, it's gonna cool, and while it cools, I'm going to make my filling. Let's start with the pumpkin, canned pumpkin. This is my take on I guess a pumpkin pie, but a chocolate pumpkin pie. All right, canned pumpkin and evaporated milk. I have 2 eggs, and it's a lot better when they're room temp because they whip up easier. I have brown sugar as well as granulated sugar, cornstarch, which helps thicken everything, and then my spices. Cinnamon, ginger, allspice, and cloves, which is that pumpkin spice that you know and love when you eat a pumpkin pie. Those are the spices that go in it. And freshly grated nutmeg. my favorite spice. It's my name's in it. A pinch of salt. I'm gonna start with a whisk and just whisk it up. Just wanna make sure everything is fully incorporated. You just want it nice and smooth. I feel like whenever I have pumpkin pie, I look forward to the next day because I just think the flavors have a chance to meld and hang out, and it just always tastes so much better. So you can make this a couple days in advance and then serve it. All right, set this aside and bring up my tart shell that's nice and cool. And gorgeous. My dirt tart shell. It kind of does look like dirt. All right, and then pour this mixture in the shell. I give it a little tap just to get rid of those Michael Bublés on top, those bubbles. Michael Bublé, what happened to you? Where are you? Michael? All right, anyways, I'm gonna pop this back in the oven for 45 minutes until the middle is set. So if you give it a little jiggle, see how it's jiggling now? I shouldn't do that. My tart is cooked and looks gorgeous. It doesn't have that little jiggle in the middle. It's nice and set. I'm gonna let it cool at room temp for about 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna pop it in the fridge for an hour or two to fully set. I'm gonna make some whipped cream. I'm gonna put this baby together. My tart is nice and chilled. All right, to take it out of the shell, do that. See how easily that came off? Literally fell off. And I don't have to fight with it and try and get it out and have half of it break, and then I end up crying. And like, no one wants to see a grown woman cry. Nobody. All right, carefully place it on a pie plate or cake stand or a large platter. Looks so pretty. It smells so good. Yeah. Whipped cream. We're just gonna mound it up. Mount up. In the middle. And just kind of push it to the edges. I like to see a little bit of the orange tart underneath. And then, I know this seems weird to add black salt, but it just adds a little salty bite. I always like sweet and savory when I make chocolate chip cookies. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to, but it barely adds any salt. And there we go, my chocolate pumpkin tart. Smells insane, it looks gorgeous. I hope you try and make this. Let me know if you do. I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna eat this whole thing by myself. See you later.
Fall is here and it's pumpkin spice everything. Today I'm making this pumpkin pie milkshake that's creamy and decadent, full of warm fall flavors, and I even put a mini pie wedge to take it over the top. So let's get started. We're gonna start with some vanilla ice cream because you have to have ice cream in a milkshake, right? I'm gonna start with 5 scoops. And then next, I'm gonna add in some cream cheese. The cream cheese is gonna give the shake that creamy, cheesecakey flavor, and it'll also help thicken up the shake. Next, a nice heaping amount of pumpkin puree. And then I'm gonna add in some milk, some brown sugar, cinnamon, a little bit of ginger for some warmth, and some nutmeg. And I'm just gonna add in about a 1/4 teaspoon. All right, now we're ready to blend everything together. Perfect! Look how thick and creamy that is. Since I like to be a little festive, we're gonna dress up our milkshake glass. First, I'm gonna dip it into some water, and then I'm gonna dip it into the graham cracker crust right here, just so it can mimic a pie crust. Perfect. Now I'm gonna pour my shake in there. Yummy! And then, milkshake has to have some whipped cream, so we're gonna put a nice thick layer of whipped cream in there. And I always like to add a little bit of sprinkles. And just in case we forgot that it's a pumpkin pie milkshake, I'm gonna add a mini wedge of pumpkin pie right in there. I kind of broke it. Perfect milkshake. It's almost like a pumpkin pie a la mode all in one. Pumpkin pie in a glass. It's easy as pie.